Maybe you've been there, an evening out where the things didn't just go as planned. For whatever reason, the food didn't get served on time, the steak wasn't cooked just right. It's frustrating. Let's face it, working in a kitchen, it requires speed and efficiency. Sometimes we call this friction. Well, today we're going to talk about friction and how it slows things down at home, in the kitchen, and in the workplace. If we haven't met yet, my name is Kevin Green. I'm a speaker, chef, and I focus on leadership alignment. Today, I want to help you turn effort into execution with an episode of Kev's Kitchen. In this cooking show, we cook outside of the lines, we ditch the recipe, and we rely on cooking fundamentals. So let's dive in. Today, for our episode, we're going to do a version or play on corn succotash with a seared herb chicken. If you had a cast iron skillet, you could call this a cast iron chicken. And so with our episodes here, we have 5 ingredients. Let's go over those now. We have chicken breast, zucchini, fresh corn, white beans, and a herb vinaigrette. And so this is a simple dish that you can make on a weeknight. That's why it's only 5 ingredients. Pantry ingredients don't count. You can always add to it, but this keeps things simple or cost efficient, but you can get dinner on the table and it's healthy for you. And so 5 ingredients. We're going to share 2 cooking techniques, tips or techniques as we go, and then we're going to wrap up with a workplace tie-in. I like to call it my mise en place minute. So let's get started. Before we sear the chicken, I want to do a little bit of knife work. I want to show you a couple things. We do have our zucchini here ready to roll, and so we've rinsed off our ingredients. This is one way I like to present zucchini. We're going to top and tail and then go down the middle. Then we're going to take our 2 slices and cut those into quarters. Always tuck those fingertips. And then we're going to kind of cut at an angle or a bias, and we're going to remove a bit of those seeds. This just gives it a little more nuance, a little more texture, and it just kind of gives it a nice presentation. A lot of times people eat with their eyes, and so all right, we got a little scrap pile there. So we're going to turn these over, run our knife through them. You want these to be about the same size so they cook evenly. I don't really like squishy zucchini. I don't like to be mushy, so we have to get a nice sear on it and then kind of let the residual heat kind of carry us through to have a little bit of texture. We want that final zucchini to have some texture. All right. Next, we're going to look at our corn. So there's a few ways you can do corn, but it's about to be summer here in Tennessee where I'm at, and shucking corn can be done. Maybe you've shucked corn on the front porch with grandma, maybe when you were younger. But I'm going to show you one way to do that now. I like to kind of cut off here and cut off here. And then I like to run my paring knife down the side of the corn cob and use my thumb to peel it back. Kind of get right under the whiskers there, right under the husk, and you just peel it back. You're going to have some frays. You're going to have some frays and some strays. You can rinse that underwater if you want. You can get it off. We're going to go around and remove some of that excess corn husk whiskers. Okay. So we have that. We get rid of this. Now, if you'd like, you can... I've seen people put this over bowls. I've seen people do some fancy tricks. But at the end of the day, sometimes I'll put a little bit of aluminum foil down and kind of trim the edges so that the corn kernels don't go everywhere. We don't want that. But we're going to essentially just show you here. I've got some cut. But once you get the whiskers off, you want to take that knife and just run it down nice and gentle down the length of the stalk. As you work your way around, you'll get all those kernels off. Now, if you want to take the back end of your knife, this is a really cool trick. You can take the back end of your knife and scrape against that corn stalk. That kind of corn milk, if you will come out. If you're doing cream corn, you want to add that. The natural starch in our corn starch, it's going to act as a thickener. It's a really nice tip there if you're doing cream style corn. All right, let's clean up our workstation. We want to work clean. And we're going to get into it. So we're going to get a hot pan on our burner here, and we're going to season our chicken breast first. We're actually going to make this a 1-pot dish or 1-pan dish. And that we're going to sear our chicken breast. and then put it in the oven. While it's in the oven, we will then cook our vegetables in the pan, and because they're all the same size, they're going to cook in the same amount of time. At least in theory, that's what we want. All right, we want to have a clean workstation here. And again, for our 5 ingredients, we have our chicken breast, our zucchini, our corn, our white beans, and then this nice herb vinaigrette. And so for our chicken, I do want to show you this. And so if you go to the store and you buy a whole chicken breast, maybe you're like, that's a lot for me. Maybe you're cooking for 1 or 2 people. Well, we're going to show you quickly how to butterfly that. You can turn that into what we would call a chicken paillard or a chicken cutlet. And I'll show you that now. And so we're going to take our chef knife. You've got our chicken breast here. We're just going to kind of butterfly it. We're going to put a little pressure on top, find the midpoint. And like a book, we're going to open that up. So just peel it back. Peel it back. All right, and then you can trim it. Now, if you really wanted to, you could put that between some parchment paper or saran wrap and pound it out a little bit, and you get it even thinner. But at this point, it's nice and flat. It's relatively uniform. It's going to work great in our pan. Okay, I'm going to wash up. We're going to season this. And we're going to get our skillet preheated. For this, you could add some salt and pepper, some dried herbs, some thyme, some oregano. All those would work really well to make almost a nice little crust. Again, if you wanted to use cast iron, you could certainly do that. This is a nice little dried herb mixture. I'm going to use white pepper today. A little bit of kosher salt. When I first started cooking in professional kitchens, I was unfamiliar with the kosher salt. I was used to table salt at home, and I had to make the mental switch there. Okay, so we have our 5 ingredients, and as promised, 2 pro tips. And so the first one here is we want to talk about sequencing. We're going to cook the chicken first so that it's rock and rolling and everything's kind of in sequence. Everything's smooth. Everything's in motion. There's a timing. There's a rhythm to it. There's a reason we do things in order. Then when we come to the veg, we're going to talk about starting with our zucchini, getting a nice sear, adding the corn. It's not going to take a long time to cook. And the beans, they're already ready to roll. These are from a can, and so these are a great way to use a pantry item. And so we're building those layers of flavor in sequence. And so a little sheen, a little shimmer. We're going to get our pan hot. Nice caramelization on both sides. And it's going to be ready to roll. All right. All right, so this is an olive oil. You want to use like an olive oil or something relatively neutral. Every type of oil, whether it's grapeseed or a canola or vegetable oil, different types of oils, they'll have different smoke points. Meaning they can get hotter before they start to smoke. But you want a nice high smoke point oil when you sear or saute. So we're going to lay this away from us gently so we don't splash the oil. I'm going to let that do its thing. All right. So you can kind of watch here. One of the things I like to talk about when it comes to cooking, it's a sensual experience. We're looking, we're listening, we're seeing, we're looking at what's happening in the pan. We can see the protein begin to change color and transform in texture. The flesh of the chicken breast is going to turn white. It's going to develop a crispier crust there. It's going to turn brown. Okay? And so we talked about sequencing. Let's consider another pro tip, regulating heat. So when I'm searing and I want a little bit of color and caramelization, I like to start on a hot pan. Once that pan builds up some residual heat, we can go from like high or a high flame, and we can adjust. Like once it's started to sear, we can adjust that heat, let the residual heat in the pan do its thing before we flip our protein over. We would call this in industry the presentation side. This is what you're going to look at. This is when we eat with our eyes, and so that's something you want to make note of. And so recap that. We're going to talk about sequencing, the flow, and then regulating the heat. I'm going to bring this over here. So this is beautiful. We've got a nice little crispy crust going here. It's nice and brown. I'm going to finish it in the oven. Okay. And then we're going to move into our side dish here. 1 second, I'll be right back. Okay, and so now that chicken's in the oven, we're going to get another skillet and we're going to work through our vegetables. Again, same process here. We're sequencing, we're getting some caramelization, we're sauteing. So we're going to get a little bit of heat in our pan built up. This is a nice non-stick skillet. And then we're going to work through our vegetables. And so we're going to get some surface color on these zucchini. They're nice and uniform, which is very, very important. And then we're going to bring this dish together. Again, with Kev's Kitchen, our pantry items don't count as part of our 5-ingredient flow. And so we do have salt and pepper. We do have our olive oil today. And we're going to work through the rest of our ingredients. We have our mise en place, having all things in place set up nice and neat here. And so that's always important. We want to work clean. We want to work tidy. It leads to efficient execution. Okay. If you add too much oil here, it just kind of oversaturates, so don't do that. We just want to get enough to kind of coat the bottom of the pan. We're not trying to pan fry anything today, at least not with this recipe. Let's give that a minute to heat up. Okay. So I'm going to gently put in our zucchini. When it talks back, that is a good sign. When it starts to sizzle, these are good things. All right, again, this is enough for like one or two portions. We're going to start here and get a little bit of color and then put in our fresh corn. This is fresh corn. It doesn't really even have to be cooked, and so it's not going to take that long. We're essentially going to toss it through. We're going to toss it through with this zucchini and then fold in these white beans. These are Great Northern. You could also use cannellini, and then we're going to garnish this dish with this herb vinaigrette. This particular vinaigrette, this is actually a store-bought item, but you could make it, depending on the number of ingredients, you could make it from home if you wanted to just do like a simple kind of a finishing dish or a finishing condiment, if you will. It could be as simple as some chopped basil, chopped cilantro, maybe chive or dill with a little bit of olive oil, maybe some fresh lemon or lime juice. Either would work well here. This is a nice little homemade or store-bought rather vinaigrette. It's got cilantro, basil, some olive oil in it, and it's nice and tight. So this is where you just kind of want to leave it be and let it do its thing for a minute. We're going to add a little bit of salt. A little bit of salt. You can add some white pepper if you'd like. And we're going to let the pan do its work here. If we start flipping it and tossing it too soon, there's no reason for that. We want to get some color. You can kind of see it here. It's starting to brown. That's what we want. All right, we're going to head and add our corn. After 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, we're going to add our corn. If we overcrowd the pan, it actually will steam the ingredients. When we're looking to get a little bit of color, you want to give it some room to breathe. That air can circulate. It's not going to steam, but it's going to sear, get a little bit of color. That steam, that moisture that it creates is actually the enemy of a good sear. Chicken, it's nice and thin, so it's cooking through. Okay. All right, you can start to smell the zucchini. You're starting to kind of get a little bit of that toasted caramelization going on there. I like it. Give it a little bit more olive oil. It's soaked up just a little bit. Sometimes I'll do that with mushrooms. If they've taken in too much of the oil, we'll add just a little bit. Not to make it greasy, just to kind of help it go. Let's check on our chicken here. Now I like that. That pan is oven proof, oven safe rather. And so you notice I've got a handle on that. So it is, no one's going to get hurt here. All right, I like that. It's starting to pop. If you've ever made homemade popcorn, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So it's starting to pop. We're just gonna keep everything here in the pan. We got a few escapees there. But so now you can start to see, you got the steam. This is beautiful. I don't want to set off any fire alarms. I have been guilty of that. The fire department did show up a couple times, but all is well. And so the corn's starting to pop, and it's kind of like when you're making popcorn, it's starting to pop. It's starting to soften. I see a little bit of color. So we're going to toss in our beans now. And again, this is a play, a loose play on a succotash. If you want to add a little cream, you want to substitute the beans for, say, edamame or even green peas, you could do that. Okay? Okay, so we are ready to plate our dish. I think what I want to do, let's do this. This feels fancy. All right, so this is our herb vinaigrette. I'll put just a little bit of this down. Give it a little bit of shake. I like that. And then take some of our fresh corn sauté. Kind of keep it tight here in the center of our plates. Maybe one more. All right. I think it's cooled off. We're going to put our chicken breast right on top, kind of offset a little bit. You notice it really, I'll tell you what, you could add some of these pan juices just, oh yeah. It's really opened up the portion-wise when you butterfly it like that. So that's a nice little thing to do. And then let's finish it with a little bit more of our sauce. Maybe just kind of like this. Maybe a little bit right on the top. I'd eat that. All right, guys, this is our pan-seared herb chicken breast with our play on corn and white bean succotash, just in time for late spring, early summer. And then we have our cilantro or our herb vinaigrette here to kind of finish the plate and round things out. Now, in the beginning, we talked about how friction at home, friction in the kitchen can ruin a dinner out or a date night. Friction with our teams at work can do the same. So let's consider for a moment. There it is. Let's consider for a moment our mise en place moment. And this is where we take cooking to the next level and we talk about how cooking can impact us at work. And so if our team dynamics are off, if there's friction, friction slows. I think of the movie Ratatouille. Every station had a chef. Every chef had a role. Every role had a responsibility. The kitchen was impacted and influenced by the leader, the executive chef. That culture was impacted by that. And then each station chef had a certain mentality that they brought to the table, to their workday. When our teams are not aligned, when our teams aren't really sure who's doing what, when they're not taking accountability or ownership, it's like that date night out or that dinner out. It's slowed, the friction slows, and things are just not what they should be. And so to turn effort into execution, let's bring our teams together, bring them into alignment, and turn effort into execution.